Heaven and earth, darkness and light, male and female, yin and yang, body and soul, are among the countless cosmic pairings in traditions across the world. According to some, these are opposites, clashing in an eternal conflict of good and evil. But according to others, these opposites attract, meeting, creating something new by their union. The reason for many such pairings is obvious. What is a spirit without a body if not a ghost, or a body without a spirit if not a zombie? Clearly, the two need each other. But some pairings are not so obvious. Who could be the pairing for a detached, reclusive hermit with skin covered in dust and ash, matted hair and snakes around his shoulders? And what if that hermit is a god? This is the question asked by the Shiva Purana, one of the greatest collections of Hindu stories. And the answer takes us on a journey as wide as the cosmos and as deep as our own hearts. My name is Sean. Welcome to Mythos and Logos. Apparent opposites exist all around us, but we can perhaps most directly see them within ourselves. We approach situations through thinking or feeling. We are invigorated by the company of a friend, or we take time alone to recharge. We deconstruct a magician's act, or let ourselves be amazed at the mystery. Take a personality test and you will see that dozens of these variables interact to make you who you are. Just as our lives are determined by these varying traits, Hinduism sees many forces acting in the cosmos. And like the forces in our own minds, many Hindu gods pull the universe in seemingly opposite directions. When they're in harmony, like the forces of creation, preservation, and destruction in our world, life can flourish. But when they become disordered, so does our world. Our story begins with one god, Shiva, alone in the mountains. Shiva has just arrived after, to make a long story short, people rejected him in a chain of events that led to the death of his wife. And that brought Shiva to the Himalayas, the world's highest peaks, where he intends to turn his back on creation, cutting off the material world entirely to focus only on his own spiritual life. Years pass with the god distant in the mountains, and the world falls under rule of a demon, hell-bent on controlling even the heavens. The other gods are helpless to stop the demon king without Shiva, the destroyer, and plan to send someone who can bring Shiva down to earth. This is where Parvati enters our story. Parvati is an incarnation of a great goddess, born as the daughter of the king of the Himalayas. She lives a human life in our world and sees how desperately creation needs Shiva. She sets out to serve Shiva in hopes that he will notice her and come down from the mountains to the world that needs him. Now, her father, the mountain king, is pleased to think that his daughter will be the consort of a god, and while surveying his realm brings her along, stopping at Shiva's mountain retreat. Shiva is immediately wary, suspecting that the king brought his beautiful daughter to tempt him away from his meditation. And Shiva scolds him, saying that any yogi, let alone a god, does not need the distraction of a woman, which can only tie him to this world. And while the king is silent at Shiva's reproach, Parvati has the courage to challenge him. She rebuts that Shiva needs the world. Thoughts mean nothing without action. Ideas are useless without form. And it is only because there is a world that Shiva has mountains to retreat to. Shiva, like the forces in our minds, may be powerful, but that power serves no use when not integrated into a greater whole, she argues. Shiva pauses, perhaps first out of shock, but clearly something in Parvati catches his interest. So he agrees that Parvati may come up the mountain to serve him, but only in silence, and only when his eyes are closed. Parvati serves Shiva silently for many years, tending to his needs and going unnoticed by the detached god. Shiva never opens his eyes to look at Parvati, and has no inclination to romance. To Shiva, Parvati represents the earthly life that he's turned his back on. To Parvati, Shiva is a stubborn god, to be won over by serving him perfectly, believing that in time her actions can turn him. The other gods, however, are not as patient as Parvati. They see a world that needs Shiva and needs him now. So, the next time Parvati journeys into the mountains, they send the god Kama ahead of her. Kama is the god of love and desire, and the gods know that a single arrow from his bow will be enough for Shiva to be overcome with desire for Parvati. Where Kama goes, flowers bloom, birds sing, and creatures come out to court each other. When the sounds and scents of spring climb up the mountain and Shiva opens his eyes, he sees Parvati, noticing for the first time just how beautiful she is. When Shiva spots Kama hiding, and one arrow lighter than usual, he knows exactly what has happened. Furious that he would try to distract a meditating yogi with lust, Shiva opens his third eye and with a terrible blast incinerates Kama, turning him to ash. A god, though, can never really die. Some say that Kama and his wife Rati are reincarnated in the greatest lovers. Others say that even without his body, Kama lives on in a spiritual form, which is why we feel love so strongly, but struggle so often to put it into words. Parvati doesn't know this, though, and she runs terrified from Shiva, having just seen him destroy a god. Parvati hides in her home just as she mentally retreats into depression and questioning herself. How could Shiva destroy Kama like this? Was she not beautiful enough? Was her service not perfect enough? What more could she do to win him over? Yet this chain of questioning is interrupted by the arrival of Narada, the messenger of the gods. O Parvati, listen. I am sympathetic to you. I shall speak truly. My words will lead to the achievement of your desire. The great God has been served by you without austerities. You had some pride, which he, the blesser of the distressed, eradicated. Hence, you shall persuade him by performing a great penance. Shiva will take you as his wife after you've been sanctified. O goddess, you shall not take anyone other than Shiva as your husband. Narada instructs Parvati to stop trying to impress Shiva with beauty and works. She must simplify herself, take up meditation to know her true self. The heavenly messenger teaches her a mantra, sacred words of prayer, Om Namah Shivaya. Repeating the mantra in prayer, he tells her, will focus Parvati on who Shiva is, who she herself is, and reveal how they complete each other. Parvati discards her royal clothes and her lotus chariot, and retreats into the Himalayas to meditate, repeating Om Namah Shivaya. She comes to understand Shiva as a destroyer not only of worldly things, but of illusion and pride. Likewise, Parvati comes to care for others without asking for acknowledgement in return. By meditating on who Shiva is, Parvati comes to better know herself. She knows that she differs from Shiva, but comes to understand that it is not because either of them is wrong. Rather, they each serve as one part of a greater whole. Shiva's contemplation and Parvati's action, Shiva's asceticism and Parvati's pride, Shiva's detachment and Parvati's sense of community, Shiva's destruction and Parvati's service. Parvati recognizes the divinity that they both share, the light that flows through them both. And Parvati carries on with her mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, that light of divinity burning hotter and brighter until Shiva himself can no longer ignore her. The gods press Shiva to marry Parvati, but he fears that if he marries her for her beauty, Kama, the god of love and desire, will return and be so powerful that even the gods will go mad with lust. So Shiva sends 7 of his wisest servants to Parvati to test if her devotion is genuine. Thus commanded, those sages quickly went where the mother of the universe, the brilliant daughter of the mountain, shone. There she was seen as the personified achievement of penance itself. She was shining brilliantly with great splendor. Mentally bowing to her, the 7 sages of good rites humbly spoke to her after being warmly welcomed and worshipped by her. The sages act as though they are warning Parvati and criticize Shiva, the reclusive destroyer covered in ash who keeps ghosts for company. How exactly is that the kind of person that she can start a home with? They say that Vishnu, the preserver, would be a better husband, one who can provide for her every need and cherish her beauty. Parvati counters, saying that while Shiva might not give the blessings that a god like Vishnu could, it is Shiva that she knows. It is in Shiva that she sees divinity, and it is Shiva alone that she will take for a husband. Shiva is impressed with the sage's report and goes to meet Parvati himself, disguised as a priest. He tells Parvati that he has noticed her dedication and wonders which god she aims to please. When she replies that she is seeking Shiva, Shiva, in the priest's disguise, tells her that he knows that god very well. He's a stubborn and distant god who does not care for himself. His wife would wear rags in dirty mountain caves rather than the fine robes and lush palaces that other gods prepared for their brides. Parvati snaps at the priest, responding that he may claim to know Shiva, but he only sees him on a surface level. The priest might say that he has seen Shiva, but she knows his true form as an expression of pure divinity. If Shiva is covered in ash, it is only so that he may make even the funeral pyres holy. If he has no luxuries, it is only because they hide the true person behind them. If he does not care for appearances, it is only because he does not want shallow devotion. Parvati turns away from the priest to leave in anger, but he grabs her shoulder, and when Parvati turns around, it is no longer the priest who addresses her, but Shiva himself. Where will you go, leaving me? You are not to be discarded again by me. I am delighted. From today, I am your slave. I have been bought by your beauty. Every moment the appears like an age. O Parvati, O great goddess, you are my eternal wife. You have been tested by me in various ways. Let my guilt be excused in following this worldly game. Even in the three worlds, I do not see a beloved like you. O Parvati, in every respect, I am subservient to you. You are my wife. I am your bridegroom. With these words, Shiva brings Parvati with him to the mountains, where they are wed. Their union is the union of humanity and divinity, of heaven and earth, of thought and action, of lover and beloved. Each of the qualities which once caused Parvati and Shiva to clash are integrated together, each seeing the other as one aspect of the divinity they both share. The god and goddess are united as one, each balancing and complementing the other. The deeper one looks, the harder it is to tell where one ends and the other begins. Shiva and Parvati's union bears fruit in their sons Kartikeya and Ganesha, who combine their father's destructive power with their mother's devotion to life. Kartikeya defeats the demon who had conquered the earth, and Ganesha is known to destroy obstacles, bringing success to his devotees. In the end, the gods both save the world and provide for those in it. The marriage of Shiva and Parvati unites opposites by breaking down the barrier that once separated them. Shiva and Parvati do not stop being themselves, but exist together. And this is not only true in the realm of story. The very opening of the Shiva Purana promises to benefit the life of anyone who so much as tries to study it. We can see its symbolism at play in the patterns all around us. So our challenge then is the same as the one that faced Shiva and Parvati, to break the barrier of separation. Some, like Shiva, must open ourselves to the world. Others, like Parvati, are challenged to give in service. In the Hindu tradition that brought us this story, the paths are as numerous as the ones on the journey. But in any case, there's one constant. The human and the divine, the self and the other, and even the forces within our own minds promise a bounty when we pause and learn to recognize them as one. I would like to deeply thank you for joining me in this journey. This has been a very personally touching episode to make, and I'm glad that you're here through it. A special thanks to everyone liking, commenting, subscribing, and especially to our patrons who show their support for the channel with a donation, which you can do as well. Link in the description. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you next time.